everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Semi-Average Podcast. I'm Wrigley Willis, and some quick things I want to go over real quick. I apologize for not uploading over the weekend. I was unfortunately stuck in College Station with no way to get back and without my computer, so I was unable to record and upload videos on both Thursday and Saturday. I had car troubles. I got towed. It was a super long story that I'm really not going to get into, but I'm home now and we're back for our Monday upload, and I'm excited to get, back to our schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Friday for, small uploads like we talked about. But diving straight into it, obviously the Bills lost. I know it sucks. I've kind of accepted it at this point. I've had my mourning period. Obviously going into the game, I thought Buffalo was going to win wholeheartedly, not just from a biased standpoint. Buffalo looks better. Kansas City in their last 8 games haven't won a game by 10 or more points. Well, Buffalo blew the tails off of everyone coming into the regular season, took care of the Ravens handedly, and they were looking like the hottest team in football. So obviously, with my fandom and with past games, I picked Buffalo. Didn't end up working out. Kansas City was able to take care of my Bills 38-24. I'm not going to get into the offseason in today's episode, as I did that in a previous episode. I talked about Chris Carson, Trey Hendrickson, Zach Ertz, all being potential suitors for the Bills in the offseason, whether it be trades or free agency. Talked about the draft as well. We're going to get further into draft stuff once it's draft time. We're going to get into prospect scouting for the NFL as well. I know we're only doing college basketball right now. It's just because that's my favorite thing, scouting college basketball players. But the good news, there's always some good with some bad. With the NFL and my favorite team leaving, right, season's over, I can now put a lot more focus onto my favorite NBA team, the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to get into them a little bit later in the video. I wanted to start out with one of the biggest polarizing players in all of sports, Deshaun Watson. We all know he's been in trade rumors. He's been rumored to Carolina for Christian McCaffrey, number 8, a second and a fourth. He's rumored to Miami for number 3 and Tua. Rumored to Seattle for Wilson in a late first. But out of nowhere, it seems that the Jets, with their new signing of Robert Saleh, are the clear favorite to land Deshaun Watson. Now, first of all, I'm pretty scared of that because that means the second Tom Brady, an elite quarterback, leaves our division, a new one comes in. So AFC East probably not going to be a cakewalk next year if that were to be true. The Jets, honestly, what they got going on with Saleh, I thought that was an A-plus signing for them. That is the perfect head coach, in my opinion. And especially if that leads to a superstar wanting to come and play for your franchise, which should have gone 0-16 last year, should have had the number 1 overall pick. That's amazing. That's so many positives for a team that was down so bad. But getting into it, I haven't read much into what the trade would possibly look like. Obviously, number 2 this year will be involved. That it goes without saying. But it's what else could possibly be given to Houston. And I look into it. I think it has to be next year's first as well. So you're talking 2 first-round picks over for number 2 this year and wherever they place next year, which will probably be anywhere, if I had to give an estimation, between 4 and 12. The Jets will make some improvements, but especially with Deshaun Watson at the helm, but they won't be a playoff team. They won't be above 500. But and then when you talk about potential players that could get thrown in there as well, you look at maybe Sam Darnold. I think that would be the offer that I would want as Houston. I would want the 2 first-round picks and Darnold, along with a 4th or something, just to get a little extra sweetener in. But Houston, I can't believe the entire epitome of Houston sports has just collapsed. George Springer just signed a deal with the Blue Jays. Michael Brantley signed a deal with the Blue Jays too, but we stole him right back immediately. But look, Houston has lost James Harden, they've lost George Springer, and they're about to lose Deshaun Watson, which arguably were the faces of each 3 of those teams. And now it's imploded completely. And it's really sad, Now, I was born in Houston. I'm only a fan of one Houston team, and that is the Astros. I'm not a Rockets guy at all. I actually despise the Rockets. And the Texans, I've been Bills Mafia my whole life, but just to see how high they were and the potential that they had, things are crashing down quite literally for them, and it just really sucks for all of Houston. I mean, and you look at it, there are many things that went wrong. The hiring of Bill O'Brien as a head coach wasn't as bad, but to give him the reins to the entire team with front office decisions, trades, free agency, everything was a terrible idea. Obviously, we've seen what that led to. Deshaun Watson wants out. What's his name? DeAndre Hopkins demanded a trade and he's out. You got a million guys that don't even want to play for the guy. And J.J. Watt wants to leave. I mean, J.J. Watt doesn't want to be a Texan, that's like saying Josh Allen doesn't want to be a Bill almost, which is so crazily unfathomable. But yeah, that's where we're at. The state of Houston sports is at a low point right now. And back to the Jets, though, you know, this is one of the most crazy things ever. I mean, watching the Jets this year, they were one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Obviously, they had the close game with the Bills where it was 18-10, but it's a fluke game. But, they were 0-14 going into Week 15, and they got 2 fluke wins at the end of the season, which they screwed themselves out of Trevor Lawrence. But, hey, they might get Deshaun Watson, so it worked out, right? But, yeah. It's one of the craziest turnarounds I've ever seen in sports if they are able to pull it off. And it's obviously going to take a lot of their future that they're going to have to invest in Deshaun Watson right now. I'm talking those future picks. And they're officially going to have to give up on Darnold probably, which we all kind of expected, right? I mean, arguably, if you want to talk about it, if you were to spend all of the Jets' assets on weapons around Sam Darnold, would he be a good quarterback? Probably. I mean, it's a complete hypothetical, but if I had to guess, if he had 2 legit receivers next to Jamison Crowder and an offensive line that could actually hold blocks and he wasn't seeing ghosts, maybe he could throw for 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. I don't know. It's a world of hypotheticals, and the main one is Deshaun Watson is a New York Jet. I don't know. But moving further, I just wanted to cover that one real quickly. We finally get to dive in to my favorite basketball team. I've been a diehard my whole life. I've been to like 14 games. I was brought up loving basketball during the golden age of their team, and I learned basketball at a young age based on fundamentals and making the extra pass and jump stops and good team defense and not taking plays off. San Antonio Spurs, one of the greatest franchise in all of sports, in the history of sports. They've been, 22 straight playoff appearances. Obviously, they didn't make it last year, but this year they're looking a little bit better. So right now, the main question looming in everyone's head with the Spurs is, are they good? Are they going to be a playoff team? Is this too early to tell? Because they've been playing with a lot of energy. They've had multiple guys step up. I mean, Patty Mills has been awesome. Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker. Derek White's hurt, but when he's back, he's going to be great. Demar Derozan has been ridiculous, and we're going to dive into his play style in a minute. DeJounte Murray has 2 triple-doubles, is playing elite defensively. It's so awesome to watch this team. They've had a couple bad nights. Rudy Gay as well has had a little bit of a resurgence here. Jakob Poeltl. There's so many pieces, and everyone's playing much further above where they were expected. Going into the year, I ranked the Western Conference on where I projected to see everyone finish. And I try to do it with no bias. And I ranked San Antonio 13th in the West with only Minnesota and Sacramento? No, not Sacramento. I would never do that. Who would I have put below the Spurs and Kings? Or Spurs and Timberwolves? Can't remember. Anyways, Spurs are looking a lot better than what we expected. Currently, right now, I believe they are tied for the 8th seed, which if you go to the NBA standings, they get pushed down to the 10th seed for whatever reason, even though they have the same record and no tiebreaker. Super early in the season, doesn't matter anyways. But when we dive into why the Spurs are good, I want to start with DeMar DeRozan. And that also entails a little bit of how he fits into the starting lineup, because you think of DeMar DeRozan, you think of a combo wing that can just get buckets at will from the mid-range area. He can score inside. He's going to get fouls called on him. He can make good passes. He can pass the ball pretty well. DeMar DeRozan has kind of completely changed his play style, and for the better. It's been awesome to watch. He starts at power forward for the Spurs, technically speaking. They go Murray, Walker, Johnson, DeMar, and then Aldridge And it's, by the way, that lineup is so fun. And then obviously Mills off the benches. I mean, this year he's been crazy good shooting the rock. But Demar's resurgence as a point forward, if you will, has been awesome. Let me just bring his stats up real quick. Another player on my fantasy team as well. We always meet players on my fantasy sometimes, as in a couple videos ago when we talked about the Pacers, Malcolm Brogdon was a main topic of discussion. But this year, let's just go over his averages. Demar Derozan is averaging 20 points, 7 assists. And I mean, watching the games, I watch every game that I can. If another game isn't going on, like the Bills, it's just to see the fluidity that he has regained, and obviously that goes a lot with confidence. It's like Demar's playing like 2017 Demar again. He knows he's that guy that can just take it on the perimeter and drive past the first guy, hop step past the second, and find the open guy in the corner. And he's doing it at a very efficient rate as well. And at 5 rebounds along with that, he's making half a three a game. Popovich is letting him shoot threes, which, we all know DeMar's not the greatest shooter, but I mean, it's the whole Ben Simmons dynamic where it's like you kind of have to shoot threes so people just won't stand in the paint on defense. So he's shooting the rock a little bit. He's not shooting the greatest percentages, but he's hitting a couple. And he's been very active defensively as well. DeMar DeRozan is when the trade went down for Kawhi Leonard and for DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl, I thought obviously we lost the trade looking at it now, but I thought it was a complete blunder. Like how was there not a better offer than this? DeRozan's declining, can't shoot threes. Obviously, he's proven that he can't win at the big level. Jakob Poeltl's a project center. It was basically a DeRozan for Kawhi swap, which that doesn't make a lot of sense up front. Obviously, Toronto's getting the bulk end of that. But I'm not saying he's just, the trade is a win-win all of a sudden. But things are looking good in San Antonio, and it's all stemming around DeMar DeRozan, who, when you look at it, he's starting at power forward, averaging 7 assists a game, is the main playmaker, while also averaging 20 a game. He's been very, 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 very elite. Not just good, elite. He is the best player on the floor for the Spurs at all times. And in a lot of games this year, he has been the most dominant player on the floor, which is so awesome to see. And the Spurs are looking like the Spurs of old, where it's 9 guys that can score in double figures. Everyone's unselfish. The assists are, off the charts. No one really leads except this year with DeRozan. 6.8 is pretty high, especially for a forward. But everyone's averaging 3 assists or something like that. But obviously, I want to keep DeMar's part a little shorter. We know what DeMar is. He's a superstar. People had forgotten about him because he couldn't shoot the 3 ball, which didn't make any sense. But he's back. DeMar DeRozan is back. Let it be known. And the Spurs might be back as well. Another player that I want to get into is Keldon Johnson, who has recently been dubbed Keldon Mustang Johnson by the Spurs announcers. Kind of like the nickname. Makes sense for him. I don't know, his play style. But this guy is just a super athlete, and the improvements that I've seen from him, not only has his physical body gotten so much well-rounded, you can see he's just built like a true 7-year veteran at this point. Like, he has great shoulders. He's slim while also having crazy jumpy legs, if you will, if you want to say it like that. But his finishing ability has been ridiculous this year. Running in transition, when LaMarcus gets a pass, hands it off to DeRozan, and DeRozan throws an outlet to Keldon Johnson, and it's a 1-on-2, he is scoring every single time. His hop steps, the way he finagles in air, it's amazing to watch. It's poetic. And Keldon Johnson looks like a real. I'm really interested in the youth movement in San Antonio. You got DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Trey Jones, Luka Samanic, Keldon Johnson, and I kind of bypassed Keldon Johnson when he was drafted by us. I didn't look into him as much. I was very focused on, obviously, DeJounte. I love DeJounte Murray. He is such a fun player. But I really liked Lonnie Walker. I thought he was, I'm like, he's the guy. He's that guy that could average 25 and be the leading scorer on a team that's a top 4 seed in the West. But that's looking much more like Keldon Johnson at this point. It's great to watch. His shooting hasn't been that great, but his overall athleticism with the way he is able to finish and his He's undersized at the 3 and at the 4, which he's played a little bit, which I really like. When Keldon Johnson and Demar Derozan are running the 4 for the Spurs, things work. It just works. When Rudy Gay and LaMarcus Aldridge are running 4 at the 4, and I'm like, turn the TV off, put Cartoon Network on. I can't watch this. They get up and down the floor. They're super exciting. And the Spurs have kind of embraced ignoring Aldridge and DeRozan. The rest of their roster has embraced the layup or 3 mentality, which is really cool to see. And when you have 2 guys like Aldridge and DeRozan who can still get you a bucket at any level, the offense just clicks, and it's awesome. And Popovich he's really just proved how much of a mastermind he is. I mean, this team, I picked them to finish 13th in the West, and I'm a fan. I have posters of them in my room. I've got banners. I got autographed stuff from Tony Parker. I've got Tim Duncan cereal boxes that are from a 2014 HEB thing. I'm a diehard. It's all I think about. The Spurs and the Bills. They're my teams, right? And I ranked them 13th in the West to start the season. But now it looks like they're going to be having 6 seed upside, I want to say at this point. I want to say the lowest point for the Spurs this year, based off where they're playing right now, is they could probably finish as the 10, missing the playoffs by maybe about 4 games. But remember, we do have the play-in tournament, so what does the 10 seed even matter at that point? You could still get the 8. But what I want to focus on is the 6 seed upside. If we were to rank the Western Conference teams, right? Obviously, both LA teams. Denver's been awesome. Dallas has been good. And remember, we're talking about 6 seed upside. That's 4. So we only have one more team to throw in there. Let's go to standing. I'm going to pull the standings up just real quick. But I want to hear y'all's thoughts on the Spurs, because, I mean, they're my team. They don't get talked about hardly at all. And I think they're really fun and interesting. They get up and down the floor. They shoot efficiently. And it just works. The offense clicks, and it's awesome to see. Oh, and the Trailblazers. And the Jazz are good right now at 12-4, but I think they're going to drop off a little bit. So we talk about 6 seed upside. They're tied for the 8 seed with the Warriors and Mavs. So you want to go both LA teams, Denver, Portland. I'm not going to put Memphis in there. I'm not going to put Golden State in there. Utah. Looks like San Antonio is going to be fighting for the 6 with Phoenix, Memphis, and Dallas. So Phoenix, Memphis, and Dallas. That's what it seems like it's going to boil down to at the end of the season. When we're talking about, obviously, you got your playoff locks. Remember these 3 teams. It seems like it's going to be the way it works out. Phoenix, Memphis, Dallas, San Antonio. Those 4 fighting for 3 spots. It's going to be exciting. And if you want to put in, what was the team? If you want to throw in the Warriors, they don't seem like they're going to be good. The Pelicans have obviously proven that the head coaching change was not a good idea, and that Zion's upside is nowhere close to what we thought it would be, but he hasn't shot outside the paint all season long. I mean, obviously he's dominant at that level, but there has to be multiple levels to guys who are superstars. That's why Ben Simmons isn't a superstar yet. Well, actually, yes, defensively he is a superstar. But that's going to wrap it up on the Spurs. Just to, recap a little bit, DeMar DeRozan has completely changed his game. He gets up and down the floor. He shoots efficiently. He's taking threes to make to keep the defense guessing. He's passing the ball at an elite level. He basically plays power forward and point guard at the same time. Power forward on the defensive end and point guard when he brings the ball up the court. It's so awesome to watch. Keldon Johnson has evolved big time. He has been the guy, it was who's going to be the guy that steps up for the Spurs out of all the young guys. And all of them have stepped up pretty well, but Keldon Johnson's that guy who's, I'm going to average 18-7, and teams are going to have to game plan for me, and you have to start me kind of guy. It's really, really cool. And I was a hater of Keldon Johnson, so thanks for proving me wrong. And then we talked about 6 seed upside, we narrowed it down to, it seems it's going to be Phoenix, Memphis, Dallas, San Antonio, Golden State fighting for 3 spots when it comes down to the end of the season. It's going to be awesome to watch. It's going to be just like the West this year, except the Spurs are going to be, they were in it. They were in it last year. Yeah, they just missed out. But going further into it, it's time to do our prospect scouting again. We did themes for the last two times that we did this. We did players I played against, and we did what did we do the first time? Not entirely sure. But today I just want to do my three favorite guards in the draft. And starting off, Cade Cunningham. He, where do I start with him? I think okay. I think he in the NBA he's much more suited for the NBA than the college level, and he's already been awesome at the college level. People are watching his game and they're like, oh, he's like weirdly slow and he moves awkwardly side to side defensively. When he gets switched on to forwards, it's like he gets belittled sometimes. It's weird. Like, why is he not dominating at the college level? And I think that's the lack thereof of pick and rolls. Cade Cunningham might be the best pick and roll prospect coming out of the draft since Chris Paul. Is that crazy to say? I don't think so. I mean, his build, along with his shooting, decision making, and passing, it is the perfect group of four for a pick and roll kind of guy. It's gonna be whatever team he goes to, they are set. And with the future of the NBA, I wouldn't be surprised if Cade plays the 3 in the NBA as well, which would be really interesting. But diving further into the pick and roll thing, he has amazing patience. You see a lot of guys at the college level playing really out of control and trying to be too fast for what the game pace is. And that's where a lot of times you see guys, oh, he averaged 22 a game. Why isn't he going to be a good NBA player? He doesn't know how to control the pace. And that's a big thing that people don't look at. Cade Cunningham is a player that could, by himself, disregard the other 9 players in the court. He alone can control the entire pace of a game. Something that Luka Doncic does, something that LeBron James does. This is a superstar trait that we don't see often, and it's so fun to watch. It sucks that Oklahoma State isn't that good this year. They actually have a fun team. Like Isaac Likakele is awesome to watch. They have springy forwards along with Cade, obviously. They just haven't been very good. They've had some wins, but yeah, Cade Cunningham is legit. Now, going further into him as a player, his shooting, he's got good mechanics. There's definitely something to work with. He hasn't shot very well from 3 in college so far. I don't know the exact numbers. I could look them up, but I've watched 3 Oklahoma State games so far. I think he hasn't shot the ball very well. I've checked box scores on games. Not the greatest shooter, but you look on tape, the ball's coming out high. It's good. Both elbows are at the same level. It's nothing crazy. It's not something where you're going to need to restructure a shot. So you're completely fine. It's just going to take reps and years of shooting, a shooting coach, getting comfortable at that level as well. Another thing is defensively, a lot of people have been surprised that he hasn't been dominating on defense as much as they would expect. I mean, the guy's 6'6", 210, playing the point guard position. It's a perfect build to be good at defense. He should be able to guard 3, arguably 4 players at the college level. He's just struggled interiorly, and I think it's an effort thing, honestly. It's one of those things where it's like you look at all these guys, these super highly recruited guys who go to somewhat smaller schools, and their teams always suck. It's like, why did they go there? And you want to think it's something else, but I don't want to think like that. But it's probably he knows he's going to be a top 5 pick. He's like, why should I care about playing good interior defense and giving a shit about boxing out? I don't know. I think it'll be fixed. He's got the frame. If Anthony Edwards gets picked number 1 overall for saying he doesn't even like basketball, I think Cade Cunningham's lack of work ethic on the defensive and rebounding ends will be solvable easily. So it's not that much to get into. The next player, we're doing all guards, by the way. These are my 3 favorite guards in the class. I think I said that. Oh, player comparison. I already mentioned them. Now, this is a bit insane, but I really struggled with a player comparison. I was looking at his build specifically. I'm like, Michael Carter Williams. No, he has much higher ceiling than that. Maybe like an Emmanuel Mudiay, much higher ceiling than that. And the player that I settled on was Luka Doncic. I mean, they're both big guards with amazing pace control, that are amazing passers, that are somewhat methodical on defense, lackadaisical, and players that can completely turn a franchise around like that. So my player comparison for Cade Cunningham is Luka Doncic. And the draft range, he should go number 1 overall. If I had the number 1 overall pick, looking at the slew of this amazing class, I would take Cade. He just seems like the best player. It's his build. It's his scoring ability inside. It's his playmaking. It's his pick and roll game. It's his ability to control the pace of games, which only superstars can really do. It's essentially game wreckers, right? You want to think about it like that. Why does Boban get minutes in the NBA, even though he's super slow and runs out of stamina in 2 minutes? Because you put him in there, and then everything goes to shit, and it's kind of like a reset button on the game. That's somewhat what I'm talking about here when I talk about pace controllers. They dictate everything that goes on. They get to say if we play faster, play slow. And it's such a characteristic that gets looked over. It's what LeBron does. It's what Luka does. And it is what Cade Cunningham will do. Next player. So Cade's my favorite guard. My second favorite guard is Jalen Suggs, who is so sick. Buddy has amazing athleticism to start off with. He's crazily agile. Like he can get anywhere on the floor whenever he wants to. And him in that Gonzaga defense is so fun to watch. He is such a pest. And that was the question coming in, I think, for me at least. We all knew that Jalen Suggs, he's a 5-star, top 10 or 15 recruit in the nation. Like, he can score the rock. There's no question to it. Like, he can score at all 3 levels too. He's very silky inside. He evades defenders. He shies away from contact sometimes. He's been doing that recently. At the beginning of the season, he was attacking the rim with force, going into defenders, getting and ones. We've seen a little bit less of that. He's played more like a seasoned pro, if you will, because Gonzaga is so damn good. But yeah, and he can hit the mid-range. He can hit the 3. He's an amazing ball handler. He's pretty decent in the pick and roll. He's really good at the college level, but I don't know if that'll translate to the NBA level, as well as Cade Cunningham. But what has really surprised me is his pesky defense. It has been so awesome to watch. He berades ball handlers and gets in their ball handler pocket and everything. It's like he's a nightmare. If he had to guard me, it would be a nightmare. Just don't even give me the rock. Just let me sit in the corner so you guys don't have to deal with him. But Jalen Suggs, really, really intriguing player. His draft stock has skyrocketed. Beginning of the year, he was mid-20s to late or early second-round pick. And now I've seen him go number 1 in some mock drafts. He's such a polarizing player, and it's just so awesome to watch. And much like Cade Cunningham, he's one of those players where you completely have to game plan and dictate how you will play a game based off of him. Like, he gets to decide. And the thing with Jalen Suggs is he wants to play fast. So when we get into Suggs's pro comparison, this one, there's a lot of players we've seen in NBA history that have the similar makeup of him. There's a lot of guards, obviously, but I was looking more so into build along with scoring ability, and I'm going to choose a rookie from last year's class, and that is Tyrese Halliburton, but plus. I think Tyrese Halliburton was a steal for the Kings. I wish the Spurs would have taken him. I don't know why they didn't. Whatever. It would have been a perfect fit. He would have been the most perfect Spurs player, but Vassell will be fine, I guess. But I didn't even talk about him when we went over the Spurs, even though he's played pretty good. But Jalen Suggs is like Tyrese Halliburton plus. And what I mean when I say plus is I think he will be a better shooter. He is a better athlete. And I think they're very similar in everything else. Their frame, their footwork, defensively, they're both very, very good. They're active. They have high motor, which is awesome to see. A guy who just wants it, Colin Sexton type, right? But draft range. I don't think Suggs is the number 1 player in a class. I'm going to go ahead and say, I said Cade was the number 1. I'm going to say Suggs is a top 6 guy. Now, you want to talk about other players that could go ahead of him. You got Evan Mobley, Jalen Green. Maybe I'll go ahead and say 4. But yeah. Now, getting into our third guard. And it's one who's barely played at all, except recently. And that is Sharif Cooper. I was a big Sharif Cooper hater Cooper. Like, yeah, whatever. I was a big Sharif Cooper hater coming into the season. Watching his college highlights, I thought he played with so much moxie that it wouldn't work at the college level. I guess he's just that damn good because he has been an absolute menace for Auburn this year. He scores at will. He's an amazing playmaker. Obviously, his defense sucks. That's because of his frame, because of his build, and because it's pretty apparent that he just doesn't care about defense. His tempo is awesome. His IQ is off the charts. I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect him to shoot efficiently with the kind of shots he's taking. I didn't expect him to be an efficient ball handler, which he really hasn't been. The assist numbers are high, but you got to think about the volume, how much the ball is in his hands. Obviously, a guy like that's going to average a ton of assists, right? And he has a lot of turnovers, but I think it's something to work with at the pro level. And yeah, but Cooper has just been so elite. He can shoot from 30 feet out already. He's not the best inside. You figured, he'd be really silky around the rim and be able to find angles to score off of. He struggled a little bit with that. He's had to rely on his jump shot, which is fine. I mean, there's a million guys in the NBA who did that anyways. Excuse me. So it's not that big of a deal. Now, Cooper is my third favorite guard, and the reason he's not number one is because his player comparison, I'm giving him Trae Young. Now, similar builds, similar. Trae Young was more skinny fit while Cooper's a little bit more tore up. They both are elite shooters from deep. They're both risky playmakers where it usually works out. They're both god-awful at defense. They both have really good IQ on the offensive end. They're very coachable players, I think. And Sharif Cooper is going to be a guy like rookie year. He could average just easily 20 and 9 as a rookie, and it's gonna be really intriguing. Granted, that'll go along with 33% from three and 5 turnovers, but hey, good numbers are good numbers, I guess, right? So Sharif Cooper, my draft range for him, he's definitely going to be a lottery pick. I think he's proven through the shortened amount of games he's played at Auburn that he is worthy of a lottery pick. I at least think so. You don't see polarizing players come along often, and we look at guys who are just going to be niche fits that somehow slip into the lottery, like Devin Vassell. Vassell will never be a superstar. Vassell will never be anything more than a 3-and-D guy. He'll never be more than the third scoring option on the team. Sharif Cooper has that potential day one to come in and be like, all right, I'm going to take 18 shots a game. So that's why he's my third favorite guard, just because he's just so polarizing and can just take games over. So, yeah. And, I did my player comparison. So, to recap, Cade Cunningham, my favorite guard in the class. I have him number one overall consensus. I think if they don't take whoever is picking number one, if you don't take him number one, it's a mistake because it's not even a positional thing. He can play the 1, the 2, or the 3. So, it's not like take Cade Cunningham number one overall, please. And my player comparison for him is Luka Doncic. Then you have Jalen Suggs, my second favorite player in the class. I think he's top 4 or 5 potential. And my player comparison for him is Tyrese Halliburton plus, with the pluses being, I think he is more athletic side to side, and he could be a better playmaker as well as a better finisher or a better shooter, I mean. And my third player, Sharif Cooper, I have him as a granted lottery pick, top 13, top 15. And my player comparison for Sharif Cooper out of Auburn is Trae Young. Now, usually that's where we end prospect scouting, but I want to go over something real quick. And when I made this list, he was playing god awful, but he's actually picked it up a little bit. And that is BJ Boston, who we all expected, I think I made a silly mock draft at the beginning of the year, not being serious. It's impossible to dictate a mock draft before the college basketball season starts. But I had BJ Boston going number 6 overall. Now I think it would be bad if he enlisted in the draft this year. And you're looking at his game, he just has one of the worst builds physically I've ever seen from a guard. He has little to no muscle, and he moves slow. So you're not getting anything out of him physically. Granted, he has a good vertical, but he's not getting to positions on the court where that can even be utilized. And with that, with his terrible frame, He is such a god-awful decision maker. No wonder Kentucky has been terrible. Usually, a top 5 guy in the class comes in, he's able to score nearly 20 a game and be a leader and make good decisions and pass the ball well and give a shit on defense. BJ Boston is none of those things. It has been an absolute dramatic collapse for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Buddy ends up transferring and playing for like Northern Illinois or something. It's been so drastic. And I thought he was a really good player coming in. I thought, he was like a guard version of Brandon Ingram, is what I said he was, with his frame, the way he moves on the court. But apparently, he looked a lot better in high school because at the college level, he has been really, really bad. Now, in the past couple of games, though, for Kentucky, even though their season's basically a write-off, I think they're 5-9, which is, imagine saying that Kentucky would be 5-9 in the season. But he shot the ball better. So if he can't create his own shot because he's not athletic enough and he's just not an elite athlete or an athlete at all. It's weird how he was heralded as such an amazing prospect coming out of high school. There's just no upside. Like, you're watching him and you're like, well, there's nothing physical there. He can't create his own shot. Maybe he can be a shooter. Oh, he shot 2 for 9 from 3 in the game. Is he a good defender at least? No, he gets bullied all the time on the perimeter and inside. What is this guy? Why is he playing in Kentucky? And it's just really puzzling. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on BJ Boston because I've been pretty heated about it. Because I'm just looking at his box scores and watching Kentucky games. It's like, how is he a 5-star? How is he supposed to be a top 5 pick? This guy is terrible. He's so bad. But yeah, that's my BJ Boston thing, and I want to wrap that up. But going into it, for wrapping up prospect scouting, we got into my top 3 favorite guards going into the draft, all of which I presume to be lottery picks at the very least. Let's get into today's game of the day. Very light drum roll, but it's once again a Texas Tech game for some reason, even though my Syracuse Orange are playing as Texas Tech, number 10 Texas Tech, and the top 10 is going to be playing number 11 West Virginia. And this is a really, really intriguing game because you look at what Texas Tech is. They have really quick guards. They shoot efficiently from 3, pesky guards on defense as well. And then you got West Virginia, which is Derek Culver and Toshibwe and banging inside, getting easy layups at the rim. It's 2 different powers. It's almost, Buffalo versus Baltimore, if you want to compare college basketball to the NFL. It's just 2 totally different play styles, and they do it very, very well, and they're going to be squaring off tonight. Now, I believe West Virginia is favored by 1.5. Let me just check real quick on the good old super long loading ESPN app. Let's get over to it. There are some cool NBA games on tonight. The Heat and Nets are playing. Spurs, Pelicans, Sixers, Pistons, if you care. But, yeah, Division 1, Texas Tech, West Virginia. No, Texas Tech is favored by 1 point now. I believe it was West Virginia minus 1.5. I probably read that wrong, and it was Texas Tech minus 1.5. They just lowered it a little bit. But, yeah, my bet tonight, I am taking Texas Tech all the way. This team is rocking and rolling. Obviously, they just came off of a loss to Baylor, but Baylor looks like they could possibly rival Gonzaga for being the number 1 team in the nation, which is unfathomable to even think that someone could play as good as Gonzaga is playing this year. But Tech has got things going. They're shooting efficiently. Their defense has been amazing in the last couple of games. And West Virginia, their defense has not been as great, which is very surprising. You figured with all the big bodies and long athletes that they have in press Virginia, right? I'm not even sure if they still press the whole game, which Bob Huggins, that just seems a little ridiculous. This isn't 7th grade, small rec league tournament. You can just press and score 100 points. If it works, it works, right? But yeah, I'm taking Tech. My player of the game, once again, Mac McClung. I was right last time when I had the game of the day, Texas Tech, Texas. I picked Texas Tech. Mac McClung ended up hitting the game winner. It was super awesome. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I want to apologize again for missing a couple of days of uploading. It was just a freak incident, but we're going to get back and rolling, and Semi-Average Podcast is back. I will see you guys Wednesday. Leave any comments below on if you agreed with me, if you disagree with me. If you want to see any changes to the channel, if you have any recommendations for what I should talk about, just let me know. And make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's going to be down in the description. So, yeah, have a nice rest of your day. And thanks for tuning in.